Howdy ho, howdy do, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the live stream. Sound test, sound test. Checking. Can everyone type yes in the chat with a Y or something, saying that if it's too loud, too small, too low in the volume, what's going on? Sweet. Yeah, I know. Good. Turn down your volume if it's slightly loud. Do it. Welcome to the X-Force Global Live stream. Sorry for the dry jokes. You know, if they say that you laugh at your own jokes, you're considered a psychopath or a maniac. Just kidding. Welcome. What's up, my man? What's going on, dude? How old am I? Let's just say I'm half dead. Old enough to be that people don't care about me, but young enough that I can still function and go to the gym. So hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the channel, whatever you do. Let me get that up. Let's do it. Subscribe. Like. Howdy, Mr. Fishy. Howdy do. Get out of here, Dan. Don't need you. Let me get some water. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll get this started real soon. Good guess, Crane. Good guess. Good try. Excellent try. Someone let me know when we hit the 70 likes. Oh, wow. That was the fastest ever, my man. My man and ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I'm going to get censored or banned from YouTube for saying ladies and gentlemen now. You guys remember when I got banned on YouTube for talking about Trump and Kamala Harris? Ooh, I shouldn't talk about it. YouTube is spying on me. Well, they're gonna probably ban me for talking about XRP going to $20, huh? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much for joining today. Hello to all my friends. Hello to all of my lurkers. Hello to all of my enemies for no reason. You know who you are. I see you. I know who you are. And I'm watching every move. Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't care about you. But still, thank you very much for joining wherever you are in the world. It's great to have you. But we are at a very interesting time here, ladies and gentlemen. We are now potentially working for unprecedented levels. We are in that final stage of the bull market. We're going to do a top-down analysis. Has anything changed on my side when it comes to potential targets or any levels that we might find any rejections, or are we still working in some kind of larger extended fifth wave? I absolutely do believe that we're still working for these levels over here of around 200,000 to the 250 to the $300,000 levels. So I think we're gonna hit those levels. We're gonna liquidate all the bears, liquidate all the bulls along the way, but those who are in the market right now that have been positioned at lower levels are going to be rewarded the most. So make sure to take profits when you can. Create a system that is absolutely crucial in this current market situation. During times of chaos, you want to be making sure to stay level-headed as much as you can when it comes to not only trading, but also protecting your capital, right? And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. Now, one thing that can help us protect our capital is definitely understanding the wave theory here, right? Now, many of you probably don't know the wave theory. Absolutely fine. You guys probably only know what a wave 3 is at this point. But we want to understand in the context of things from a top-down, perspective on the macro, where we currently stand. And I think it's very important to know that we are in the late stage of the bull market. Now, I'm not saying that it's over. I'm saying we're at the late stage of the bull market, meaning that we still have quite a bit of way to go to complete this trend. Because if we go back to the overall halving cycles that I've continuously worked upon, this here is what most of the general investors see. So we have to make sure to keep this balance of understanding the perspective of the average Joe, right? The average Joe doesn't care about TA, right? And that's the kind of misconception that a lot of people make with the Elliott wave theory. These wave theorists or wave analysts, rather, those that utilize the Elliott wave theory, fantastic. They can be excellent wave analysts, right? But one thing that a lot of people fall short on is not understanding how the market psychology works, meaning that they think that the average Joe has a clear understanding of the wave theory, which is absolutely wrong. You as a wave analyst have to understand the perspective of the average Joe first and then apply the wave theory on top of that. not the other way around where you have the assumption that the general investor is going to go for the exact targets no matter how perfect the wave theory may be. So whether you are the best trader, whether you are the best analyst on, social media, your favorite influencer, to be honest, we're just random dudes on the internet talking about potential targets. But one thing that is very fascinating to me about the Elliott wave theory is that it provides us the context of market psychology. And it gives us the overall context on where these potential cycles could complete. And right now, what we're seeing here is this orange box that we need to be completing that is going to be fulfilling the role of what we saw in the previous cycles. And I think that it's a very safe and well within reason assumption to make, as that's pretty much the only data that we have, right? And 10 years plus of data is not something to joke around with, right? And especially if it has done that every single cycle. Now, along the way, the wave counts do change, of course, because market maturity comes into play. We have a lot more smart traders coming into the market. And I would say arguably the markets are a lot smarter than they were back in 2018 or whatever bear market or bull market that we had. So we have to constantly adjust to the waves, constantly adjust to the waters, and most importantly, constantly adjust to the ideas of what the average Joe is seeing in the markets, right? So it doesn't change. However, it doesn't change the fact that we are still looking for this parabolic phase. And as you can see, this missing parabolic slope is still missing, in my opinion, that we need to be going for higher levels. So that puts me into the middle ground between all of the mega bulls and just the normal bulls, where, the normal bulls are seeing this level being a heavy rejection zone, and we're seeing the end of the cycle here around $120,000, $130,000 levels. Great. Yeah, it's a great topic to talk about, but we want to be sticking with conviction as well. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people lack with the Elliott wave theory as well. And it's also a drawback of the Elliott wave theory. I'm a very big advocate of the Elliott wave theory, but if you're not talented enough into making sure you narrow down your scenarios, then you won't have a real clear direction. I think a lot of people, they give too many scenarios, too many probabilities, and this whole word of probability is now becoming a meme, in my opinion. You can say, oh yeah, there's many lines that show this and this and this and that. But, if you have the real foundation of understanding what the average Joe is looking at within the markets, you can heavily narrow down the wave counts and then use it to your advantage. And if you're, just like what the Elliott Wave International has taught me from me being certified now, I think it is an excellent way to approach the wave theory by using only 3 hierarchy of degrees, meaning that you want to be using, the primary, whatever degree you're at. In this case here, we're using the super cycle, using only 3 degrees within each trend of the 5 waves or the 3 waves that you're looking at. Anything further, yeah, it can be a great educational approach, kind of validating any thesis that you may have on the shorter time frames. But most importantly, using only 3 degrees helps us understand the overall clarity of what the markets are trying to provide us, right? And right now, as you can see here, very clean here, right? And we have these 5s here being built with each cycle. And right now, we are currently working in that final 5th wave stage, in my opinion. Now, we do have a little bit of adjustment being made here. I think understanding the context of this is important, because with each halving cycle and the past behavior of what the market traders were looking at, we saw these 3, 4, 5s happen after each cycle. But in this case, we were ahead of schedule, right? We saw this wave 3 happen earlier, and we saw it happen before the halving cycle. And I think this is why we can also safely assume that a 5th wave extension is in play, because a lot of people missed out on this wave 3. Now, this wave 3 is, technically long, but it's not going to be the longest, in my opinion, for this current cycle. I think there is overwhelming evidence that people are still sidelined and still would like to enter the markets at this stage. And I will go over some evidence on that as well. But that is going to be made up with the wave 5 being extended. And this is why I'm seeing this theory of this whole context of this extended 5th wave coming into play. It's very, very interesting times, because what has become some kind of, thesis or some kind of a lot of people were seeing this as a myth, but I think a lot of people, in my opinion, would more or less start to agree that a fifth wave extension is most likely going to be the most logical approach if we're going to be looking for higher levels, right? Because there's really no way of saying that this cycle is going to be extended any longer. Now, there are possible ways, of course. We can say, a fifth wave has ended here. This would give us a clean 5-wave move to the upside. But are you confident enough to say that this is the end of something here? And we can say that this was a higher degree wave 1. This is now working in a flat. You have to also convince me that this is another 3-wave move. You have to convince me that this is not a WXYZ. And now you have to convince me that this is a more applicable WXY or an ABC structure, but we don't have that. And now you're assuming that we're just going to go straight out to the downside, right? Sharing this idea is absolutely fine, but I think it's a little bit of a misleading concept, in my opinion, when you're using the Elliott wave theory. This is why this idea as a 1-2 extended cycle and we're just going to continue up, I think it's out of the picture, in my opinion. And then we have the people who are talking about possibilities of having this as a larger flat. Yeah, I don't want to even talk about that. I think a lot of people are just miscalculating the markets right now. The calculated risk on the side of, the bears, they're not wrong. I think that they're going to absolutely nail it. The smart traders, that is, right? I think they will absolutely be positioned very well from a bearish perspective. But the current bears right now within the markets, I think that they are heavily miscalculating the overall target, general targets, that is, because we really don't know the actual top. It's notoriously difficult to actually time the tops, but I think a lot of the bears are just kind of currently miscalculating where the tops are going to be. Now, with that being said, do I think that they're wrong in the idea of seeing a possible cycle top? Absolutely not. I think that they're going to be 200, 300% late, and at this point, if you missed out on that $78,000, $70,000 level that we were talking about for continuation, you're 200, 300% late within the trend, and you're liquidated not many times. But you're also utilizing the Elliott wave theory entirely wrong. If you're continuously getting invalidated along the way up, it is, in my opinion, wrong due diligence is the best way I would put it. You're utilizing the wave theory properly, possibly by knowing that there's invalidations that are existing. But if you're getting invalidated 50, 60 times along the way up, you're bound to eventually get it right at some point, right? But after, 60, 100,000 attempts, talking about a possible potential top, you're not utilizing the wave theory, properly, especially if you're trying to teach the wave theory properly, right? So this is why conviction also is very important, and the balance of it is very important as well. And right now, I think there's not really, any other way to put this. It's just really a clear fifth wave extension is, most likely highly the case here. We got very good channeling going on here. We got, arguably, objectively clear the first 4 legs. That is, this being wave 1, this being a wave 2 as a flat. We got a wave 3, a wave 4 here. Now it's pretty clear that this is a wave 1-2 of some sort in the making. The markets do not want to go down. You can see we had how many weeks of just green candles here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a month and a half, ladies and gentlemen, of just pure green candles to the upside. We breached the bullish level. We came down, retested this, and broke back above it. And you're telling me that this is a bearish price action? I absolutely do not understand why you would say that this is bearish price action. Follow the trend, ladies and gentlemen. The trend is your friend, and I think a lot of people forget that. And if you're not following the trend, you're willingly being naive in this stage, in my opinion. You're not even being in the acceptance stage. A lot of bears who are actually going from skepticism to turning into acceptance, those bears, at least they're coming into the markets a little bit earlier than the people who might come at a later stage. And those people who eventually, people that, been calling for bearish moves along the way up, these people are the ones that are going to be used as exit liquidity, right? Because eventually those final 20 to 30% skeptical traders or investors that come back into the market, the bulls are already so heavily rewarded that they're finally going to use some kind of liquidity here, the whales that is, to use you as exit liquidity. So, you know, it's very fascinating to see this come into play, herd psychology that is, because this has been basically the equation ever since the dawn of ages and the inception of Bitcoin since 2010. All of these bear markets that happened, you know, smart money is the key player and role in this market, ladies and gentlemen. Market manipulation works in this market. It's just simply the easiest way to look at it. You have to know when to exit your positions. Yes, you can hold it out and, you know, front run your gains for the next, you know, bear market, but you got to take profits sometime, right? So that is a little bit of a risk management approach on how we can, you know, look at when to exit these positions, when to enter properly, maximize your and optimal entries as best as possible. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why the wave theory provides us excellent clarity if used properly. And I think a lot of people are using improperly is what I'm trying to say here. And they are missing out on the trend. And it's very heartbreaking to see, because I am seeing a lot of colleagues trying to talk about a potential bear market looming right now as we speak. And, you know, I know you lurkers are hearing this right now. I know you guys are hearing this right this minute. And those, you know, my colleagues or whoever it is listening, you know, you're going to see that whatever I'm saying is probably a direct, you know, mirror reflection. And you're probably seeing yourself right now like, why am I doing this? You know, you don't want to be doing this. You're being willingly, you know, denying the overall trend. And I think this is why people are using the wave theory very incorrectly. And if you don't agree with my counts, absolutely fine. If you're able to come up with a high probable count that you think is going to be working against it, this is why subjectivity exists within the Elliott wave theory. But my job here is to make sure it's objective as possible, go with the trend, go with the overall flow of the waves, and talk about what the average Joe is looking at. And I think those that are saying, you know, oh, yeah, it's just going up, it's just going up to $150,000. You're too late, my man. You're too late. You're too late, my brother. You know, you missed out on every single move, and you're now asking, like, should I get back into the markets? Sorry, you know, it's just part of the game. You know, you got to optimize your entries, learn to swap bias when it's needed, and so forth, okay? So that being said, let's talk about how this extended wave 5 could be coming into play, ladies and gentlemen, because this has been the narrative for quite a while, right? We're talking about, you know, a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that goes into that $200,000 region, not $120,000, $130,000 where I'm seeing as if, you know, just a clean breakthrough in my opinion. I think we will get a fresh round of liquidity coming into the markets. It's going to be a very interesting time, but again, I don't see the bull market ending at these levels. I'm squeezing this as much as possible, ladies and gentlemen, until I see the red flags coming in from a wave theory perspective. There's absolutely no reason to be a bear at this current time in the markets. Now, mind you, once we do get a clear 5-wave move to the upside, you best believe I'm going to be turning into bears. So all of you bulls that are listening right now that is siding with me, I guarantee you, you know, 90% of you bulls will be extremely upset when I turn it into a bear and say that a bear market is right around the corner, because relatively we are in that final stage of the bull market, and I am absolutely ready to pounce on a potential top. And once we get this general targets out of the way, once we find any momentum indicators giving us signals that a massive pullback is on its way, and when we get that real clear 5-wave impulse to the downside as the first actionary leg of whatever wave 1 or wave A it may be to the downside, you best believe that is going to be the signal for me to get into a bearish position or a short position, or protecting my capital as best as I can, getting ready for the next bull market, however long it may take, a year or two, whatever it takes. But usually we've seen these bear markets happen, only 1 to 2 years. So this is why we have to be very, very mindful of our own portfolio, because the only person that's able to save you in your portfolio is yourself. No Elon Musk, no Michael Saylor, no institutional, whatever it is, no bank, no whatever is going to save your portfolio. And that's why even with XRP, no matter how bullish I may be, I'm still using a systematic approach. And I think that's super important, which I will be discussing with my XRP strategy later in this live stream. So that being said, let's talk about how this this wave 5 is being played, okay? Well, first of all, we have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going into wave 1. We have a WXY correction here. Very nice symmetry being achieved here. ABC, ABC, ABC here. Very, very nice symmetry. A textbook symmetry, in my opinion, in terms of time and depth. And when we're talking about any extended wave 5s or extended bull markets or late cycle bull market pullbacks, potential support zones, we're looking at the minimum 23.6 and the 38.2% zones as our minimum retracement zones, as people get front ran and don't even get that 61.8% zone being met. And that's why we see these continuous people being front ran, and the trend just continues. I think this is another very important aspect, not just from the Elliott wave theory, but from a Fibonacci level perspective. That's very, very evidence-based approach as well within the late cycle of a bull market. That is, we usually see parabolic runs, and sometimes we don't even see the 23.6% being met, but 23.6% is a safe level. Definitely the 38.2% level as a safe level of a strong support when it comes to the final stages of the bull market. So that being said, we got this primary degree, higher degree wave 1, 2 being complete at the in between the 23.6 and the 38.2% zone. Nothing fancy there. We got another 5-wave move up into an intermediate degree, lower degree wave 1. We got a combination for a wave 2 here. Now I'm not a fan of these combinations, but I am open to interpretive ideas here as possibly, because again, we have a basis of this being in an extended 5th wave, and we're working with the micro degrees, so we're also open to interpretation to these very rare patterns. So this 1-2 idea is also in play, but no worries, we can say that this is a 1-2 here, 1-2 possibly in the making here of some sort, but I haven't really gone into detail of the possible count here. Just seems best fitted as a flat here for a W. A long wave A, short wave C, ABC style zigzag going into wave X. And here was the dead giveaway that this was most likely as a triangle wave Y. And that's why we labeled this as an intermediate 2. We've got a very clean 5-wave move up for a wave 1 in the minor degree. And then look at this. We got another pullback. And if you've been following me on social media, which if you aren't, please do give me a follow on X if you haven't already. I do a lot of my public analysis on there as well. Please do give me a follow here if you would like a lot of the updates, not just on Bitcoin but altcoins as well, and also my conviction and whatever data evidence-based approach that I have, I am sharing there as well. So with that being said, we do have potential of a wave 2 being complete here. Again, goes back to that theory of the 23.6 and the 38.2% zones being supported. Again, we have something to cushion back on if it does go deeper into that 61.8%. But we ideally want to be supported in this Fibonacci box as best as we can to continue this overall trend. And I think we're doing a fantastic job from the bulls that we are continuing this overall trend to the upside. And I think we are very close to some kind of ballistic move to the upside of this wave 3 of the minor degree to help extend this wave 3 and create this overall extension. Now, we can have the possibility of saying that this wave 3 is in. Wave 4 is also possibly working in the play here, and then this wave 5. But to me, just the fact that we're still kind of seeing a lot of sideliners, a lot of angry bears in the market, still trying to convince us that a top is in. This here, I'm just extending this as much as I can, because I know I'm going to be milking this, and I do know that we are working in a larger extension, in my opinion, that is. So, yeah, just simple assumption here, using the guideline of alternation as well. We can say that this intermediate degree was a sideways combo. It's very likely we'll see a sharp sell-off here, and that should be giving us some kind of zigzag variation, and then we should be looking for a final 5th wave of this primary 3. And ladies and gentlemen, we don't even have enough room to talk about what's next, because the next move after that wave 3 is going to be a potential sideways wave 4, as we are assuming this wave 2 was sharp in nature, and then we're looking for a 5th wave, and that, ladies and gentlemen, should be that wave 3 that we're looking for, right? On the macro. Bada bing, bada boom. Would you look at that? Because it looks like we're working for that wave 3 after that 5th wave completes, and then we're going to be looking for a sideways wave 4 and then a 5th, and that's still just the beginning, and we're still working in this wave 3. This will be a multi-month pullback of a sideways wave 4, at least assumed, and then we'll be working for a 5th wave. That will be the ultimate blow off top, and I still think that this is a major bull market, ladies and gentlemen. And what does this mean? Do we still have opportunity for Bitcoin? Absolutely. But the most opportunity within a 5th wave of a bull market is not Bitcoin, it is altcoins. And this leads me into the next phase, which is the Bitcoin dominance, which we talked about over and over for the past 2, 3, 4,000 weeks. And we're looking for that eventual pullback. And lo and behold, we broke below that wedge. We retested it very momentarily and we got a massive continuation. And it is absolutely clear that this is most likely the beginning of a trend in capital rotation shift within the altcoin markets, as Bitcoin is now trading in uncharted territories of price discovery. So what does that mean? Where are we currently positioned for altcoins? This is absolutely phenomenal because we are finally at a stage where we can clearly identify some kind of 5-way move to the upside. Now, the Bitcoin dominance is a bit tricky. I mentioned this in the very, very, very first Bitcoin dominance video, where this is a metric that's only labeled from 0 to 100%. So it is a fixated value, and it's very difficult to count this from a Elliott wave theory perspective, but it still gives us the context of things and how to translate the Bitcoin price action into how we can be looking at a potential alt season. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking at the cheat sheet that I shared years and years ago, I'm getting old here, 5,000-6,000 years ago, basically during the Sun Tzu era, we've been talking about this Bitcoin dominance cheat sheet that I created. Ever since, there has been a lot of copycats, but if you go back to, this chart here, this is the original chart that you want to be looking at, and I will share this chart on the chat if you are interested in looking at it. But this is where we're currently at, in my opinion. We're seeing a drop in the dominance, okay? We're seeing the dominance drop. We're seeing Bitcoin also increase, and we're expecting to further increase. What does that mean? It means that the markets are now confident translating into a potential alt season because they know for a fact, or the general investors or smart whales or whoever the people is looking at the markets, that they're looking at a potential alt season. And this is why there is a very good chance, very high chance that is, that we're working in a new alt season, and this may be the biggest alt season of this current cycle. Now, mind you, I didn't say the biggest alt season of the entire history. I'm saying the season here. So take it or leave it. I don't care, but I'm going to take it. Even if it's just a 15% pullback within the dominance, that to me alone is enough of a pullback to continue the confidence to say that we're ready for an alt season. And I think we will see a major bounce on every single altcoin, including your shitcoin that you've been holding for 99% down drawdown altcoin that you're holding. It's most likely going to go for a run at this stage, right? Now, I'm not saying it's going to go to all-time highs because that's a completely different category, in my opinion. This is where you have to now be even more selective about the altcoins and which altcoins that you're going to be looking at. And I've given all of my, breadcrumb trails on which altcoins that I'm currently in and which coins that I'm going to be exiting, where I'm going to be exiting for this cycle. I could care less about whatever coin that you're holding, but to me, it's about my own portfolio that I want to be making sure to, protect and also preserve. And I think we chose the right coins, which is the coins that have been accumulating for the past 7,000 or 6,000 years. And that is XRP, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. XRP is, in my opinion, potentially the only altcoin that is showing not only conventional strength within these markets, but showing incredible strength within the follow-up. And that is the key point here, ladies and gentlemen. So let's look at the overall bullish triangle that we've been talking about. And if you go back to my first post here, my pin post that is, we've been talking about it. If this BD trendline were to break, ladies and gentlemen, no questions asked, $7 to $10 was the vision that we have been looking at. Now you can say, oh, I told you so. The people who have no technical expertise, excuse me, then yeah, absolutely. But from a technical breakout perspective, we had all of the necessary ingredients. We went through all of the fundamental drawdowns. We went through the SEC case, and I think there's some kind of new follow-up development with the SEC case here, and I'm not sure what that's all about. So if you want to talk about it in the chat, please do inform me, and I'll read into it. But again, dating back before this actual breakout happened, absolutely phenomenal time. Look at that, a massive breakout. And you know what's fascinating about this? I'm going to talk about why this may be just the beginning. This 500% move was, number one, going back to the Bitcoin dominance, was all happening while the dominance was increasing this entire time. Absolutely fascinating, right? But number two, 20 to 30% of XRP's market cap, ladies and gentlemen, is coming out of South Korea. And we're seeing some interesting developments, insane volume, and transactional net inflows is ramping up like crazy. Just today, we saw 1.3. It's at 1.8 now. We're seeing XRP now surpass pretty much the top 30, excluding Ethereum and Bitcoin, all combined. Look at this. Look how low the volume is here. It's literally sucking the life force out of every single altcoin on the Korean exchanges right now. Not just Upbit, but we're seeing it for every single coin right now as we speak. XRP's volume is increasing by threefold. Now, people are talking about on-demand liquidity, ODL for short. Those people have been proven wrong as well, because over the weekends, the past 2 to 3, 4 weekends, we've seen consistent high volume from retail during the weekends. And that is insane, because we've been seeing, even on the worst of days, XRP outperforming every single coin, basically doubling, tripling Ethereum and Bitcoin. And right now, even with Ethereum ramping up an insane, percentage gain, we got to give a round of applause to the Ethereum holders as well. We're seeing that real 2018 traditional approach coming back into the markets, where I think a lot of people are finally interested in these dino coins like XRP, Ethereum, Dogecoin. Dogecoin is also leveling itself out here on the top ranks as well. Dogecoin is now number 3. Bitcoin, XLM was at number 2 just the other day, behind XRP. It's insane here, ladies and gentlemen. We're still seeing ADA start to ramp up as well. And this is just giving me the vibes of the 2018 bull market. So what can we also get out of that 2018 bull market? If XRP is being held by the Koreans this much, 20 to 30% of the market's holding XRP, holy smokes. That's a lot, but what else can we pull out of this? Well, number one, I posted this publicly as well, is that we are seeing a negative premium percentage on the kimchi premium. And a kimchi premium here, ladies and gentlemen, is basically, back in 2018, we saw 40 to 30% percentage premiums on Korean exchanges. There's a whole story behind this. I don't want to go too deep into it, but just because Korean exchanges were heavily gatekept from the outside markets, from offshore exchanges, we saw a huge influx of local demand happening, and we saw the kimchi premium rise to insane levels. Basically, if you had Bitcoin on offshore exchanges and just transferring it into Korean exchanges, you saw a 40% gain just for transferring it into the Korean exchanges. And XRP was one of the top gainers as well. We saw a 44% for being a top coin, right? And what's very important about this is we're only seeing a minus 2% kimchi premium right now as we speak. This was posted just hours ago, but minus 2%, ladies and gentlemen. Minus 2% as XRP is ramping up insane intense volume on the markets. We're now nearing all-time highs already. This is really unprecedented. It means that there's just one thing. The retail is not even positioned right now within the Korean markets, even though we're seeing an insane run on XRP. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy, especially now we're seeing only a minus 2%. Again, we saw a 30-40% range conservatively back in 2018, and it just means XRP is now trading cheaper. Even right now, it's trading cheaper than international markets, which is very, very strange, especially now that we're entering that euphoric phase of the bull market. So I think there's still plenty of ways to push this price up from the Korean markets, especially that we hold 20 to 30% of the actual market cap. It's increasing on the daily. So it's clearly indicating that retail isn't even fully on board and is still heavily sidelined from my contrarian perspective. We should at the very least see it trading at a 10 to even maybe 15% premium, at a very conservative premium at the height of this cycle, in my opinion. And that should still push XRP up to those wave 3 targets that we've been expecting of around $10 to $15 as the minimum run here. And ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, this is going to be even far more profitable than this wave 1 here, because we got a clear 5-way move up. We got a wave 2 pullback. In fact, we were calling for this wave 2 pullback. If you recall, we've been talking about this potential wave 2 pullback. You know, I can go back and even talk about why we were looking for this wave 2 pullback. And a lot of people didn't believe me that we were looking for a 60%, 50% pullback. And we're following the narrative here, ladies and gentlemen. We're now just looking for the continuation at this point, right? So this is very, very important in my opinion. So this is now just a clear follow-up and just following the story that we've been talking about for weeks on end, right? That being said, months on end, we've been talking about this massive 7 to 8 year triangle, you know, going through those endless lawsuit cases with the SEC. You know, because of that wild volatility, the XRP community, as ever strong as it is, has been continuously creating these higher lows within the markets here year over year, ladies and gentlemen. Year over year is not something to mess around with, right? We're talking about yearly higher lows being created, even with the volatility of the SEC case. That is some insane potential from a consolidation perspective. And those who were calling it a shitcoin, those who are calling it a stable coin, those people are going to be angered the most, because now we're seeing XRP retest the all-time highs, and it's the only top 10 coin, in my opinion, right now that is actually not proving that a continuation above all-time high is happening, but it's proven itself that this time we're not joking around. These pullbacks are absolutely going to be shallow as possible. The Koreans are angry. The West is angry. The people who have been holding on for years on end, they're angry. I'm angry. You're angry. Your mom is angry. Dude, we're ready for this move to the upside. I think this is really the only way we can be looking at it in this current time of stage. And my conviction right now is as high as it has ever been, even higher than it is over here, that we had that potential breakout. In my opinion, this last breakout that we're seeing here is reflecting what we saw over here with this wave 4 potential triangle. In my opinion, I don't think it's even a wave 4 here, in my opinion. I think we're just working for a potential 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This here should reflect this here, in my opinion. We'll get that final blow off top. $20 to $30 conservative target for me. I'm not even calling it for 3-digit levels. So for those who think I'm an extreme bull, dude, come on. This is literally a 3,000, 4,000, 6,000% from these levels. I mean, if you're not satisfied with that, then you deserve to lose all of your gains, in my opinion. And this is why I keep mentioning that you need to take profits along the way. Have a system. Have a systematic approach, ladies and gentlemen. I've shared this publicly as well. If we go back to my profile, and I've shared this publicly time after time, I spent 2,100 plus days accumulating XRP, and today marks the first time I sold half of my holdings back in December, and I gave zero cares about who told me when to sell and what not to sell. A lot of people got angry, like, why are you selling XRP? I don't care. I still have 50% of my bags, and I'm still going with what I believe in, which is I'm going to be taking another 25% at the $4 regions and the rest at the cycle target of $20 to $30, which is basically my moon bag. And I can be absolutely content with an early bear market. And I'm basically in a position where risk management has taken over my portfolio, and I can't lose money. And what can you do to maximize your gains if you're taking this risk management approach? This, ladies and gentlemen, you got to accumulate with high conviction at an early stage as much as you can to help mitigate off of the risk to go all in at a later stage, where a lot of people are doing right now. And right now, I'm just laughing at the people right now. I'm just laughing because people who are, entering at these levels, these are going to be used as exit liquidity, in my opinion, and especially at these levels over here. The people who are skeptic at these levels, the people who are skeptic over here, these people are going to be laughing at these people over here as people we're laughing at the people over here. So that's my view on XRP, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. On the macro, let's talk about it on a little more of a shorter time frame, because it is important, and we are now continuing that narrative of that potential 1-2 bottom. I do think that we are working for higher levels. This is going to be insane, in my opinion. Holy smokes. I don't even know how this wave 3 is going to be ending, but we're definitely looking for a wave 1. What's very important about this is that we broke this first resistance, retested it. We broke this resistance just moments ago, retested it, and we're now above this. And what's left here, ladies and gentlemen? We only got one final boss and resistance left, which is the all-time high, which is now only 3% away. 3% away from all-time highs. And if you're trying to short that market because of this, you're playing with not only fire, you're basically extremely naive and stupid at this point if you really are trying to willingly lose money in this bull market. And that is the whole point of this case. I will be exiting on the people who will be entering at a late stage. Those skeptics who have been saying that this was a shit coin, come on. In the chat, comments, come on. I know who you are, man. I have all of the receipts here. I know who you are. You know, I still have this profile, you know, this basically pinned here. You know, people talking about, you know, delete this now, you know, whole bunch of hope going on this tweet. Keep hoping and staying wrecked. Even not 72 cents. Come on, man. Fake out never fails to disappoint. Come on, my man. Like, what's going on here, dude? We've got the people who's talking about the market cap, $10 XRP market cap, talking about a $56 billion with a B. Come on, man. Come on. At this point, nothing is going to matter. No fundamental, no technical analysis. And this is, in my opinion, where even the Elliott wave theory is going to fall short. We're going to be, you know, with a wide margin of error, even on the shorter time frames. We don't know when it's going to end. All we know is that we've been able to identify potential breakout points using the context of larger wave counts. And then in hindsight, once we get a large, you know, consolidation of some sort, we can start finally identifying where wave 4s, where wave 1-2s, where wave 5s are going to be ending. And that is the key point here, ladies and gentlemen. I think a lot of people utilizing the Elliott wave theory, like I said, fall short on because they focus not only on the micro time frames, but it really proves to who they are as a trader, but as an analyst, and not following their own potential footpaths and execution on what they preach. And most importantly, ego gets in the way of them. And I think that is a very unfortunate thing, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. It's unfortunate because ego getting in the way of your trading, you still have a long way to go, my young grasshopper, because in this case, nobody gives an F if you were right or wrong within this market. I don't care if I was right. I don't care if I was wrong. I'm just sharing my personal experience on when I exit, and can I give receipts on that, basically. Talking about potential exits, will that prove to myself as a self-journal that we got out perfectly? And again, time after time, we've been also talking about these, you know, potential points of profit taking. I've talked about my stock splits on XRP or Tesla as well. I exited at 1,200 for a $3.1 million profit taking point, and look what happened. Lo and behold, we got that stock split and we dropped 70%. Tesla bounced very strongly afterwards and created an all-time high, but it doesn't faze me because I knew what was going to be happening next. I didn't want to ruin my capital, and I still got out at a excellent time, basically. And you know, this is why we take most of the risk at an early stage, and this is why I'm trying to let everyone know that there is a way to, you know, get out of this market very profitable, you know, generational wealth, basically. You don't have to do it with 100x. No, you don't have to do it with 200x. This is why I think a lot of people are not only, you know, even if they're, you know, 100% correct within the markets, I can guarantee you that no one is executing properly, in my opinion. So that being said, higher levels for XRP, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be insane. I do think that we're going to be working for one massive, insane parabolic move to the upside, whether it's going to be now or on that fifth wave. We just simply do not know. It's going to happen very soon, in my opinion. So someone is asking, is it still a good time to buy XRP right now? I mean, that question was asked over here. That question was asked over here. Why are we asking that question over here? Why are we asking that question over here? Why are we asking that question over here on whether XRP is a good time to buy or not? Why? I don't get it. This is what I'm talking about, herd psychology. These people, the same type of people, multiply this by basically the global population and who believes in XRP or is actually eventually going to believe in XRP. These people are the ones that are actually thinking of getting in now. You can see it's happening live right now, even with these questions being asked here. So be careful out there, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed out on the trend, I'm sorry. Maybe you have to wait for a larger degree to play out, even if it's at a higher level. Confirmation is your friend. The trend is your friend as well, ladies and gentlemen. So keep that in mind. Now, are there any questions other than requests for other potential coins? Are there any questions on market psychology, risk management, or even XRP or Bitcoin, potential wave counts that you're seeing, any counter arguments? I am open to all interpretations. I am all ear. So if you have any questions, please do ask them in the chat right here. It is here on the right side for those that are watching. And most importantly, please, this is a good time to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and also follow me on X at XForce Global. And I do guarantee you that, technical analysis, it may be very difficult, but if you follow me for long enough, you'll get a very easy gist and handle on how the wave theory works, because I don't go too detailed in the, micro time frame counts, but the wave counts do work in our favor if we're working on the macro with potentially high degree of probability. So, it looks like a lot of these questions are just asking for a request on like Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash. I'm not going to go into those. I would like for more substance in the questions. If you guys do have questions, please do ask, because I think this is being recorded and is going to be, put up on a public record. So please ask some good questions if you have any. Now, someone did ask just moments ago right now, what about the Bitcoin dominance going to an all-time low? Your analysis was that the Bitcoin dominance made that wave one. What about if this is retracement? I don't think that Bitcoin dominance is going to go to an all-time low. Again, I think there is still overwhelming strong Bitcoin maximalists. It's just part of the game. I think with the increase, not only fundamentally meaning the adoption, the overall general adoption of Bitcoin and crypto in general. Since that is increasing, of course, people are going to look at Bitcoin as the first asset to, get into. It is arguably the lowest volatile asset when it comes to specific ranges. There is a clear trend, and this is why we always go back to the halving cycle. And because of that, I think a lot of people are going to look into Bitcoin as their first asset. So I do think that the Bitcoin dominance is going to go for potential pullbacks like this current window of time, but it will continue to rise, in my opinion. It should balance out between 40 to 70 to 80% forever, basically, because it's a metric value in between 0 and 100. It can't just go to 100%, because if it goes to 100%, it means that everyone's out of altcoins. It can't go to 0%. It means that everyone's out of Bitcoin, right? So this is why I think that the Bitcoin dominance metric, I think after this cycle, I'm going to retire it, in my opinion. I think once we do get a clear trend on Bitcoin, find where the wave 4s and wave 2s are. Instead, we're going to have to continue to rely on this here. Where this if and that happens, then an outcome happens, where if the dominance decreases or whatever happens to the Bitcoin price, we can get a clear understanding of where the altcoins are. But from an Elliott wave perspective, even I think it's going to have to be retired, because it's very difficult with each new mature cycle that's happening. It's very difficult to get a real clear wave count. But we're lucky within this current wave count for the Bitcoin dominance that we do have a pretty clear structure. We are getting a good follow-up from what we've been talking about, a potential ending diagonal being created here, and we're getting a clear breakdown. We went from 65 to 62% within, the past few weeks, and it looks like it's going to go down to that 50% level as a very small expectation, right? And that's not asking for too much. We were there just moments ago, right? And going back down to those levels, it's really going to put some pressure onto Bitcoin. Keep it stable. The Bitcoin maximalist is going to be a synergistic effect, in my opinion. So this is the time where not Bitcoin's, we should be upset at Bitcoin maximalists, because they are basically potentially helping us with this alt season that's coming into mind. And this is why we have to focus on this here, right here, ladies and gentlemen. We want the Bitcoin price to increase, and it is very, very heavily evidence-based approach using it that we're still missing that fifth wave. And this is why this is the perfect formula, in my opinion, on why we're going to be seeing a massive alt season. Let's see, any questions? Looks like no major questions, but I mean, hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this should have been a clear take and good time for you to take some reflection on where you currently stand, not from a wave theory perspective, but portfolio perspective. Do you have some screenshot worthy photos that you're sharing to your friends and family? The people that are sharing their screenshots on X right now, and once you start seeing those, it may be a potentially good time to start taking profits, right? And that's one good indicator for yourself to start really, taking profits. If it's screenshot worthy, then it's most definitely probably a good time to start taking profits off the table, whether it's 10, 25%, that systematic approaches have to be created by yourself. You have to create your own system on how to take profits. There hasn't been a time where one single person or smart trader has regretted taking profits, even in hindsight. And I can guarantee you, those who exited the cycles early, the absolute early Bitcoin holders that have been holding since like 2015, 2013, or whatever it is, those that exited even at $15,000 or $20,000, insane amount of billionaires and millionaires were created along the way up. And you don't want to be comparing yourself to those people who have been hodling forever. Those people are the absolute goats when it comes to holding. But even them who have sold off their positions right now, they're living their golden ages at a really early time right now. They don't care right now about this. They probably re-entered at a later stage, but everyone's positioned very differently within the markets. And that's a very important point to make here, ladies and gentlemen. If you've taken positions all the way down over here at the 2017 or whatever, 2015, or even the 2017 bull market when Bitcoin retraced down to 3,600, depending on your position sizing, which is very important as well. If you've been holding just $500,000 in just Bitcoin, you made literally $1 million just going into this wave one alone. And if you're holding it even into this cycle, those people are eventually going to sell. You want to be using the previous cycles as a good indicator that we're going to go for a large pullback, in my opinion, and the sustained pressure of these sells and the follow-up amplification of the pullbacks. This is going to happen, in my opinion. We're going to see a 70 to 80% pullback. Now, I don't know if we're going to go for 80 to 90% pullback. There's just really no point in talking about how far it's going to pull back. But it's without a doubt, if we're just using the averages of the pullbacks, even a 80 to 70% pullback from the $270,000 target that I'm currently looking at, it's going to look like it's going to go down to that $40,000 levels, go back into the median range of where we were currently trading, at these levels over here. So it's very doable, in my opinion. Don't say you can't, because it's done that for the past 3 to 4 cycles. And the people that say this time is different, new institutional funds are entering the markets, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see Bitcoin go to the moon, we're going to go to $1 million. No, I don't think so. I truly don't think so, in my opinion. I really think that we will get the same exact type of pullback that we've seen in the past. We will get them. We've seen it in the past. We will see it again. We've seen it in the stock markets that has been going on ever since John Adams was alive. Basically, this whole time, up to this point, we've seen pullbacks happen within the markets. Now, do I think that we're going to see an exponential pull run for the rest of our entire lives into generational of your grandkids? Absolutely possible, yes. But we only live for so long, and this is why we need that balance of making sure that we live a little and also executing a little bit of what you preach yourself. You've made mistakes, possibly. Those that are listening probably made the mistakes back in 2017 or 2018, and maybe even in the recent 2022 bear market after that whole debacle that happened with Elon Musk at that time, entering Bitcoin and exiting Bitcoin, and we saw the Luna crash, the FTX fallout, and so forth. This here was another clear example of what happened. This here was possibly where you're also never learned your mistakes here as well. And if you're holding it through up and now you're on profits, use that wisdom that you felt during that 2022 pullback and use it here. Now there's going to be even more fresh liquidity. You're essentially a veteran of your own portfolio at this point, and getting out at these levels, I can guarantee you will not regret it. This is not financial advice, of course. However, it's more of a wisdom advice, and hopefully you use that to your advantage, because the only person that has control of your portfolio is yourself. And that's where I'm going to end this live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was helpful from a wave theory perspective, from a top-down analysis. You know my positioning. You know where I'm seeing Bitcoin going. You know where I'm seeing for XRP going. This is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. This is the final stage where euphoria is actually going to be peaking, in my opinion, and we will get that blow off top eventually. When we get that 5-wave move, 5-wave move, 5-wave move to the downside, this was a false call, in my opinion. This was not a 5-wave move, and as you can see, we broke right back above into that zone, and we're now at price discovery. This is what I'm seeing. Hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you guys in the next video. Please make sure to like this video, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you are interested in joining the Discord membership or the Patreon membership, the links are in the description below. If you would like more periodic updates, please do join. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic rest of the week and weekend. Bye-bye.